Zombies, zombies, zombies. Hello and welcome along to this video about the 4K presentation of the theatrical cut in the box set of Dawn of the Dead, released by Second Sight Films. Now, I watched this one last night and it's fresh in my mind. I've watched the 3 cuts now, and you'll see down below, I'll put down below what I thought of the Cannes cut and also the Argento cut. Now, how does this version stack up? This is on disc 1 and it is probably most people's preferred cut of the movie. Now, I'm not going to put any spoilers in. I haven't put any spoilers into any of these videos because really I'm surprised that some people haven't seen this film. But if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, you're in for a ride, and I don't want to spoil that in any way. I could give plot twists about certain characters, but I'm not going to do that. So anyway, this is sort of like you could say this is the premium cut of the film. The one that George A. Romero it's like his director's cut, because the Cannes cut is more like a full version, more like a work print in essence. This one was the one that he cut down so he could release this one. He felt that this was the best representation of his film. So you can more or less say this is the director's cut, but it's also called the theatrical cut. Now, I remember seeing this at the cinema on re-release in the 80s, and me and my friends at school had a real good time with it. We just thought it was the most amazing thing we'd ever seen in my life. We'd never seen anything so gory and funny as well. So what did I find out about this film here? The theatrical cut. Now, the theatrical cut, I'll have to look down to my notes as well, so please excuse me if I look away from the camera sometimes. So you've got 3 audio selections that you want if you want to take them. You've got 1.0 mono, you've got 2.0 stereo, and you've got 5.1 surround sound. Now, I watched the 5.1 surround sound, and I found this 5.1 surround sound better than the one on the Argento cut. I found that it was a bit more punchy. Gunshots and anything that involved anything hitting anything, there was a bit of a bass behind it. So for me, the audio on this cut won over all the other cuts. The audio on the Cannes cut is only 1.0 mono, and it seems to be adequate for the film. It's not that I don't think any of the ones that I've watched have been bad, but this 5.1 surround on here seemed to be a bit more of a real surround sound to me, even though I only watched mine on a sound bar, and I can feel the bass on it, but the sound itself seemed a bit spread out. But anybody with a 5.1 surround setup might think a bit different. But for me, the sound was the best out of the whole ones, the whole cuts that are on offer here. So the picture quality on this one is presented it's got HDR10 plus, as the same as the Cannes cut has. Now, interesting to me, this film here seems to be the most colourful, the most vibrant, even though the Argento cut is really nice. Now, also the Cannes cut still has HDR10 plus, but if the Cannes, this is my thinking, I could be completely wrong about this. If the Cannes cut is apparently struck from a mix of the theatrical cut and also some extended scenes, then maybe the extended scenes were of a bit of a lower quality than the Cannes cut, the theatrical cut, and you would see a dip in quality as these scenes were inserted. So maybe to get the film a little bit more linear in the picture, maybe they were kind of moved down a little bit. I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can color code them all at the same levels. So maybe that's why the Cannes cut seems to be a little bit, for me, lower on the quality of the picture. That's just a thought. It might be completely wrong, but I do feel that if the theatrical cut here had been put in with the extra bits from the Cannes cut, you would have seen a bit of a noticeable difference in the picture quality, which might have meant that they might have went back and colour timed it completely correctly with the extra scenes, and that made the film looked a lot more similar rather than looking brilliant and not as brilliant, brilliant not as brilliant, like they do in some Blu-ray presentations. That's only a thought of mine. I could be completely wrong, but that's the way I've picked that one up. So getting back to the picture quality of the theatrical cut, I've got to feel that this is the best version picture-wise on the discs. The Argento cut is really nice, but this one is just the best. The picture quality it's like a shade brighter as well. It's a shade darker in the dark scenes. The dark scenes play out really well. I thought that maybe the Argento cut might have had the best on the dark scenes, because they've got that's using an positive. This is using the original camera negatives. Now the original camera negatives are obviously the best source to go for, and maybe the original camera negatives from the Argento cut weren't that great, so they went to the positive. Now this one here is straight from the original camera negatives, and it said at the end of the film that they'd done a lot of restoration work for maybe a couple of months on this cut, taking out all the dirt, all the scratches, everything, and you can see that they've done a lot of work on it. So they might be using this as the flagship of this set, and I've got to admit it did look the best. It's much sharper than the Cannes cut. It is sharper than the Argento cut. It's warmer as well, even though this Argento cut is quite warm. This one's very warm, the picture, but it doesn't take anything away from it, and the colours are just absolutely vibrant, especially the yellows. Usually it's reds. The reds are amazing, but the yellows in the parking lot, you've got the yellow lines part of the parking bays. They are just like literally like just pounce off the screen, and yet one of the zombies wears a yellow jumper, and that is just in your face as well. So for me, the colours of this movie are just unreal. Nothing like you've seen before, put it that way. So for me, colour wise, you're in for a treat if you're a fan of in textures of clothes, you know, that type of thing. All the scenery, you can see every little thing in the scenery, all the bits of the film that you can just, people fixate like I do sometimes on things, you know, brickwork and stuff like that. It's all, the detail is all there, and the colour is all there. It's just a visual treat, actually. Now this film plays really well. It plays more like an American film. It's got a lot more talk about the consumerism. It's got a lot more satire in it about, you know, materialism and people wanting all this stuff. You know, the zenith of everything is to own everything, and it's sort of maybe like an allegory on how people are. And really, if you're just fit and healthy, that is probably the best thing rather than owning everything. Like the shopping mall, it's a great thing to go into. It's a great thing to have everything in your, you know, grasp, and you can take everything. You can take money, you can take the whole lot, but it doesn't buy you anything, because if you've got the threat of death round the corner, it doesn't mean anything, does it? So I think the American version, George A. Romero's version, did really go into that quite a lot, and I get a lot out of that, and I do think that that's a great thing to have in the film. The Argento cut, otherwise, kind of misses all that out. It's as if the Italian sensibilities aren't really interested in that, and the Argento cut plays more like an Italian film. If you saw the Italian sort of rip-offs of this film, it's got a lot in common with that, whereas the George A. Romero version is a different take on this whole. It's like it is like a different film, because it plays completely differently to the Argento cut. And I do think it benefits from that, and I think that it means that it's not just the same film with a few things cut out. It's more like two different takes on this same film, which is, I find, quite interesting. I didn't think I would like the Argento cut as much as I did, but on watching it, it really stood out as something that was quite a bit of a mini masterpiece in a way. And it's not like sometimes you get a Blu-ray and you get like 10 versions of the same film, and a lot of them you can just throw away and think, well, I'll never see that again. Sometimes they're a bit of an oddity, but the Argento cut is a massive part of this set. It's not just a throwaway, and for that reason it's well worth, they're all well worth a watch. It's not one of the ones where you think, well, why has it got 3 cuts on it when I only like the theatrical cut? You get a lot more out of the other ones, even the Cannes cut, that adds some extra little story to the fleshes the characters out, and you get a bit more of a feeling about that consumerism gone wrong, and their sort of journey in the getting everything they want. But is it really what you want? To have everything and become complacent and lazy and just sitting around and thinking, well, you know, because that's not really what you want to do. You want to have some form of life as a part of, and you know, other than stagnate in your surroundings. So I think that's quite a good allegory that George A. Romero commented on his version, whereas Dario Argento said, that's not for me. The things I want to talk about is action and gore, and obviously that's what he did. So these two versions are split up on that way. If you want an action figure, I keep saying action figure. If you want an action film, head over to Dario Argento, because it's pure action, and it means if you've seen the film in a slightly different light. If you want a sort of the full package of what was originally written on the script, go to the George A. Romero's version. And to me personally, the theatrical cut and the Cannes cut, the Dario Argento cut, excuse me, are brilliant places to go to for the different feelings of the movie. And I now think of the Cannes cut as more like a reference video film to see what was there fully. I know there's a 155-minute version online. I'm going to watch that one probably next week, and I want to see exactly what is missing out of any of these. There might be some things that are just not in these films. I would hope to think I'm going to see bits that I haven't seen at all in any of these films. And also I think that and that might be a good thing to say, well, if they had this stuff, should they have put it in? Should they have got a 4th version? Although I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think that one will be ever released, because I think that's just a fan version. But it's an interesting thing to have, that there is another version out there, a longer version. In fact, there's a lot of different cuts of Dawn of the Dead that have been trimmed to certain different markets. When I looked on IMDb, I found a lot of versions when I really only thought there was 3 anyway. And then Davey, brother in Gore, he put me onto the 155-minute version, which is obviously down in YouTube, and it will be a good watch to have, to think that there is another version apart from this, which might have other footage into it. I did find that when I watched the theatrical cut, which I'm very familiar with, and I did watch it earlier on this year, actually, on the Arrow version, before I sold that one, knowing that this one was coming. I didn't really need that version, because honestly, the 4K on these versions, that's it. I think you've reached the pinnacle of this film. I don't think you need to buy anything else apart from this box set, or when it comes out on regular release, that version. And I think that the thing that's going to be missing out of the discs on the re-release is going to be all the booklets, and the paperback book, the booklet with it, and also the soundtrack. You're just going to get the movies themselves. I would like to think it will come down to around about £30, which is a bit more realistic for people. But to be honest, £80 on this, I don't feel like I've been ripped off in any way, shape or form. The packaging's lovely. The films are presented really well. The booklets, even especially the hardback booklet, it just comes across like some money was put into that. It's not just a bit of paper. They must have spent a bit of money to get this thing together. And yet it's gonna, you're paying for some premium stuff in this box set. So I think that's why this box set is quite expensive. I would love to think that the people who wanted this box set would get it before it went out of print, and then you're at the mercy of the scalpers, because who wants to go there? But unfortunately, this is where people, especially horror community, seem to be going on eBay and trying to get something from the most unscrupulous people who will put it on for a stupid price. And sometimes you think, if you want the film that bad, you are prepared to pay it. I mean, I remember my most expensive one, which was a real, but I had it. You know, when you have to see a film, and I wanted to see it, and I knew it was only out in one place, and I knew it was long out of print, and it was the code red version of Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. I paid £55 for the Blu-ray. Now, the Blu-ray was okay, it wasn't bad, it was in good condition, and I watched it, and I was glad I watched it because I did really like the film. But it's come out on the Slasher Movies collection, and you can pick it up for £5 now. So I knew, when I knew it was coming out, I immediately sold mine on eBay. I sold it for £20, which I thought was a reasonable price for an out of print movie. But it just shows you that when these things become the mercy of the scalpers who go and buy these things purely just to sell them, it's not as if they bought them and they don't like them. I understand somebody buying it and think, well, I don't like it, I'm going to sell it. Or they've bought it and thought, well, I've watched it that many times, I don't really feel the need to keep it, or I've got nowhere to put it, or anything like that. But somebody buying something purely just to sell it is just stopping somebody who's a true collector getting it on day of release, because these things aren't out for a great length of time. Maybe Dawn of the Dead is, by second sights, only has a sort of, they bought the license to sell this film, and they might have only bought it for a certain amount of units, and once them units are gone, they can't sell it anymore. Then it falls into out of print. Now, if you cast your mind back to maybe 2010 or 2012 when Arrow released their version, it seemed to go out of print immediately. And that was one of the first out of print films that I saw, and I thought, hang on a minute, what's all this about out of print? Because I just thought you could just immediately go out and buy Dawn of the Dead forever, and sadly it wasn't the case. The Dawn of the Dead vanished, and really it's been out of print from, in UK especially, on Blu-ray or any sort of high definition copy for about 10 years now, which is a travesty really, because you would like to think that any time and if you were talking to somebody who was just getting into movies and they're talking about, they like zombie films, you would say, head on down to HMV and pick up a copy of Dawn of the Dead, which you can on a lot of films, but a lot of films, you know, a lot of times, especially with Dawn of the Dead, you can't get it anywhere, which is just strange and crazy, and it shouldn't be the case. Well, getting back to that, Day of the Dead is pretty much the same as well. I would love to think that Second Sight especially, or somebody could get Day of the Dead and bring it back into the realm of being out in print. You can just go to the shop, you can buy it. I would love to see them do a 4K on it, would be brilliant. I do think a 4K on Night of the Living Dead could come out as well. I think that's begging for it, because if it's been a 4K restoration on the Criterion release, there is a 4K out there in essence. There will be the file of the 4K that will be easily transferable to a disc, you would imagine. So yes, if you're on Instagram, please follow me on WarrenPeace666, and the reason why I'm saying that is because when I was watching the theatrical cut last night, I did take a little clip of the zombie, my favourite zombie that gets killed, and I put it on there. So these little things I do talk about. I can't really put them onto this video. I don't want to get anybody, you know, demonetizing and all that, and you know, you get your thing cancelled for putting 2 seconds of a clip of a film on, which, you know. But anyway, get over there. You can see that video that I'm talking about, my favourite gunshot of the whole of the Dawn of the Dead series. I just think it's brilliant. I do think there's loads of things in here that I do love about the film, little nuances. I love the fact of the nurse zombie. You know, the nurse zombie, you see her right at the start and right at the end. She seems to just be wandering around for the full film. I like seeing the nurse zombie a lot of times in the film, and when it comes up, I always, you know, have a bit of a smile, thinking, well, she's still alive or she's still dead. How do you put that one? Also, I do like when Fran is sitting behind the glass of a shop, and this zombie comes up and he's making a funny noise and he's just sitting staring at her, and it's like he's dressed in a baseball top. And it does make me think, I've always thought that this zombie had a bit of a thing for Fran. So it shows you that some of these zombies could have a little bit of human tendency, human essence left in them, you know, and they're not, obviously they just want to kill you and eat you, but is there some kind of humanity left in them, which you can see a lot more of that in Day of the Dead. Actually, I think it's an interesting thing that's not really explained, not really looked at in Day of the Dead, sorry, Dawn of the Dead, but it does talk about the fact that in Day of the Dead you can see a lot more zombies, especially the main zombie in the film. He seems to be becoming a lot more human and a lot more self-aware as well. And I think a lot of the times I think of a zombie as somebody who's just got a brain, but it doesn't have any thoughts of any description. But I'd like to think that there's still some thoughts left in there, and they can work things out as well. I like a zombie. I don't know if I like the zombies that run that much, but I like a zombie that can think and can work things out, which is, it's a great little addition to the zombie. You know, you always think that zombies used to be just wandering around, but there is different ways you can have a zombie in a film, I think. In some of the shots as well, I can still see the 3 shots of the colour of the Dario Argento influence that I'm seeing. I don't know if it's a thing. It might just be my brain picking them things up. But it's very prevalent in this cut because of the colours in the disc itself. I do think that you see that 3 colour aspect in these films. I don't think Dario Argento would have had anything to do with that. Maybe he was talking to, maybe Giorgio Romero put that in there as a sort of homage to Dario Argento's work anyway, because he must have been familiar with his work before this, because when he's met him and taught him, he's got to have went and saw some of his films, or he's been aware of some of his films, especially Suspiria came out just before this, so you think you would have saw that and maybe put a few, so he had to set that, somebody had to set the 3 lights up. That's all I'm saying. Was it Dario? We will never know. Okay, so final thoughts on the movies in this box set. And I'm going to go, and my good friend Davey will like this bit, because I'm going to put them in order. I do think, this is my personal opinion, the way that the films look, I would say the Cannes cut looked the least quality. And that's not going to slight it in any way. It still looks really good. But for me, there's other versions better than that. Cannes cut goes in 3rd. 2nd is Dario Argento's cut, which looks amazing, but it's just not as good as number 1 is the theatrical cut. It just looks so good. And I kind of thought it would. It's the only one that's been got at the original camera negatives, and also with that HDR10 plus on the top of that, it's just probably brought it to another level. I'm going to say that to watch three versions of this film in 1 week is something you would think would be not horrendous, but you think, oh, I can't believe I'm going to watch this again, because I don't usually watch, if I watch a film, it's quite a few months before I'll ever watch it again. And I did have a great time with them. I did think I watched them properly. I didn't just sit and look at them from time to time. Focused on them, turned the lights off, got into it, and just had a really good time with them. And I do think that anybody who knows these films and loves these films will benefit from this box set. People who are coming to it fresh will get quite a bit of a surprise at how good this is. Obviously it's got its limitations, it's from the 1970s, but if you can take that away, you will know that this has probably had the best restoration I've seen in a horror film recently, especially an old horror film. So is it better than Zombie, the Lucio Fulci film, which is really the sequel kind of to this film, Zombie 2 it's called as well? Now I've got to say that I think Zombie, the presentation of Zombie, looks a little bit better than the theatrical cut on here. Just a touch, man, just a touch. And I think that might have to do with the fact of just the surroundings, the way it was shot. Looking back on it, I would have never thought I'd be saying that, but I've just got to take them as they are. The film, for me, Zombie just looks stupendous. This does as well, but I do think that personally that Zombie has the slight edge on it, but it shows you how good these two films have got when they are nearly top 10 material for a 4K transfer of a film that you would normally think of them being, both of them thinking ultra low budget and not throwaway films, but you would have them as sort of ones that looked atrocious all the time. But really, it just shows you, if you've got a film, and it might be the world's worst film in the way of like grubbiness and the content of the film, but if you can find the original camera negatives and it was shot well, and you go back to them and strike a good copy of that, then you will see that film as it was meant to be seen. Now, Dawn of the Dead could be construed as a film that somebody would like to see as a sort of bit of a sort of grindhouse look to it. But if the film wasn't shot like that, then they can't make it look like that. Well, they can, but it would be an after effect treatment of the film which you don't want to see. Whatever the film throws out on the original camera negatives, and they haven't tinkered with the colour to make the colour look false, then that's what you're going to see, for me personally. So for me, Zombie wins just by a touch, but Dawn of the Dead isn't far behind, and they are both amazing quality versions on 4K. Who would have ever thought it? I remember back in the day when you were scratching around trying to find the Intervision video of Dawn of the Dead, you'd buy them sometimes from somebody in a car boot sale for a couple of quid. You get them back and they were all over the place, but you just thought, well, at least I've got it. Because it's a funny film. Dawn of the Dead has always been a film that's just always not widely available. It's always been a film, unlike Night of the Living Dead, which every time you went to the video shop, there's about 15 different versions of it, and you're tripping over it, and you don't know which one to go for. I'm glad that Criterion have cleared that up and go for the Criterion. It's just amazing. This one here is the latest. Will this one fall into that trap as well? Will it be out for the next 2 or 3 years and then vanishes again? I hope not. I hope that Second Sight can keep it even on a regular 4K or a regular Blu-ray forever. But that remains to be seen, because the people behind this film, and I'm going to say, I think it's the De Laurentiis group. I don't know if I'm completely correct in that. They don't really like to part with it. They're licensed to Second Sight, but they don't want to say, oh, here's the film, do with it what you want. I think they like to think that they've got it and they want to keep a hold of it and kind of have it as a bit of a bargaining chip to use as a thing. I don't know if that's true. I'm not too sure, but it's just the way I'm picking it up. This is why Dawn of the Dead seems to be a film that's never been, there's films out there that's on there that you know are going to be out forever, and they're great films, and you've always got a chance to buy one. Dawn of the Dead isn't that type of film. It's a film that's usually, you've always got a bit of a problem getting. It's either not available or very expensive second-hand market, or this one's an expensive box set. But if you're going to pounce and you're not too sure about this one, or you want to maybe save a couple of quid, or you're not too sure that that you like the film enough to spend it on the special edition, if the standard edition comes out and it's a sensible price, I urge you to just pounce on it, get it, because don't sit in the fence with it, because it's one of them films I feel that could be out of print quite soon, and I'm talking about 3 years. I'll give it 3 years and I think it'll be gone again. And this thing here will be, so if you want this thing, get it now, because if you don't, this will be absolutely ridiculous money. I'm thinking this will be £200-300 easily. It's not worth that at all. For me, I think it's worth what you pay for it now. I think £80 is a good price for that. I don't mind I paid £80 for it. I do think I've got value for money, but I do think that on the second-hand market, that thing will start to go through the roof, and it'll just be ridiculous, as it does for most of these big special editions. They're only there for a short length of time. I think this is released down to in 3,000 units. I could be completely wrong about that, might be a bit more. Going to do a final video on the discs, where actually I might do 2 videos. I'm going to go and do one definitely on the extras, which I've watched most of the extras and I've had a great time with the extras. I've still got a few left to watch, and also I haven't watched the commentaries yet, but I'm really interested in watching the commentaries on the Argento Cut with the original cast members, the 4 original cast members. That might be very interesting. They might talk about the Argento cut in a way, because obviously they'll be watching the Argento cut, and I would like to think that they're seeing that and they may talk about differences that they find in that film. So we'll get an extras video. I don't know when that'll be. I'll have to do a bit more watching of them things. And also I may do one on the soundtracks as well. I'm really interested to hear the soundtrack in full after I've watched these. Probably I should watch the 155-minute version, and then I'll probably dig into the soundtracks, and then I'll do probably the soundtracks and an overall view of the booklets as well, because I don't think I'll have read them by then, because it's a big call to sort of get through the whole thing of this and come out the other end, because it's one of the things that this box set, it's not just you can put it on and then you watch one version of the film and you're kind of done with it. You've got a lot more stuff to dig into, which is great. For £80 you want something for your money, which I think I'm more than happy getting what I've got there. And I know some people have 8K tellies as well, so it'll look even better there. Oh, I'll have to wrap this up very quickly because Gunnar Hansen's outside with his chainsaw, and he'd probably be knocking on my door with a hammer to drag me outside and beat me over the head with a hammer and then shut the door. Okay, so I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching these videos. I had a great time making them, and hopefully you will have a great time watching this set. So take it easy, and remember, what am I going to put in there?